When I say public speaking, what springs to mind? Dusty academics droning on in airless lecture halls? Falling asleep at the back of the business conference? Well, in recent years, there's been a revolution in the world of public speaking. A series of new events characterised by a shorter, punchier format. These lightning talks offering more people the chance to take part and share their ideas. Probably the best known of these are the TED Talks, and they've attracted some pretty illustrious speakers.
Here are my two favourite US speeches of the last 50 years. Obviously, here we have JFK with that incredibly simple and powerful formulation. Ask not what your country can do for you, but ask what you can do for your country. An incredibly noble sentiment, but when he made that speech, what could you do to build the stronger, better society? You could fight for your country, you could die for your country, you could serve in your country's civil service, but you didn't really have the information and the knowledge and the ability to help build the stronger society in the way that you do now.
David Cameron, speaking at a TED conference in London in February 2010. I spoke to the curator of TED, Chris Anderson. Chris is originally from Bath, but now lives in America, where TED is based. I began by asking him just what a TED Talk is.
So the letters TED stand for Technology, Entertainment and Design. And TED started more than 25 years ago as a conference devoted to bringing together those three industries. The founders saw convergence between them. And what's happened in the years since is that what was originally a broader than usual type of conference has continued to get broader and broader in subject matter, till today it covers any subject of interest with the kind of slap across the forehead realization that actually all of knowledge is connected, and you learn a lot by understanding what you do, how that connects with all the other amazing things that are going on around the world. So TED was for many years just a once-a-year private for-profit conference in California. I first went in 1998 and fell in love with it, thought I'd come home, and was able to buy it 3 years later. And I moved it into a non-profit organization where it's lived ever since. And the journey over the last decade has been opening up the amazingness of what happens at TED to the rest of the world by, for example, putting the talks up for free on the internet on TED.com, where, to our enormous surprise, they found a huge audience. There's about 1 million people who watch a TED Talk every day now, and that's a surprise.
So, you talk about a TED Talk. What is a TED Talk? Who is doing the talking?
Anyone can be doing the talking. We say that we're looking for remarkable people from every field that they need to have an interesting idea worth sharing or a great piece of work that other people should know about, and they have to have the ability to make it accessible, to avoid the kind of deadly jargon that sometimes kills people's ability to spread good ideas. So if you have those two ingredients in place, we welcome them to the TED stage, and there are just two other requirements. We tell them they have to give the talk of their lives, and we tell them that they have to do it in 18 minutes or less. So unlike some public speaking where people are, kind of show up and there's a lot of blah, 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 and people get bored, the words in a typical TED Talk have been thought about, every single one of them, and possibly for as long as a month or two. So they're really crafted and well prepared, and that's respectful of audience time.
Presumably at some point, Chris, there was a change that TED was being watched by a few people, and then suddenly it kind of took off. Do you think that was due to you attracting some big names?
Actually, not really. I mean, we've certainly had plenty of big names come and speak, from Bill Clinton to Bono, Nobel laureates, so forth. But it's the unknown names that have really fueled the growth of TED. And it's happened because one person has seen the talk and has emailed a bunch of friends saying, you have to watch this. And that is what gets people through the boring first minute, and where they would otherwise just switch off, and probably explains why this type of content hasn't ever gone mass on television. Helps them get through that to the 10th minute, by which time there's tears rolling down their face and they're quite excited.
And when did you become aware that younger people seem to be getting very interested in TED?
We saw this viral spread of these talks across the web. We started digging deeply into who was doing the most spreading and the most viewing, and were delighted to see that whereas our live audience is probably people in their 40s, 50s, 60s, a lot of the action online was in people in their 20s and 30s. I think it's a combination of they're more at home on the web, and people at that age are perhaps less set in their ways. They're actually hungrier for new ideas. They're still trying to figure out what to make of the world. And so when you see someone come along with a powerful explanatory idea or that gives you a mind shift, that is even more thrilling as a 20-something-year-old than as a 40-something-year-old. But that's just guessing. We're certainly excited to see how many of them want to absorb information this way, and more recently, how many of them want to give information this way, because in a sense, this is, the YouTube generation. They have a better chance of reaching an audience of thousands or millions by making a film than by writing an essay.
Thinking back to your own schooling, say when you were about 8, 9, 10, 11, when quite a lot of that way of talking in public gets laid down. It's not to say that you can't learn it later, but I get the impression that between kind of 8 and 12, if you get the gift of the gab, put it that way, then it lasts with you for the rest of your life. Can you remember yourself aged round about then? Were you somebody who got up and spoke? Or were there possibilities given to you in class?
I was at school at an international school in India with people from 30 other countries, and I was the youngest in the class by about 9 months. I was kind of the fat geek who sat in the corner, socially awkward, and I didn't know none of that at all. I struggled socially. So I'm not sure, your theory may be right, but not so much for me. I think this is a type of literacy that should be taught in schools, the ability to share your ideas verbally in public as well as in writing. I think it's going to be really, really important for every child's future to be able to do that if they want to make any kind of impact.